Mans kungs?
Get out.
Hä? Es tikko ierados.
Get out.
Ok. Es būšu tepat netālu, ja esmu vajadzīga.
Indie games have had a bit of a massive resurgence in the past decade. I'd say there's two games to thank for that boom in popularity, those being FNAF and Undertale, but I'd argue that indies were on the up and up for a while before then. Basically, these were the powder kegs, these two were the lit matches. However, I'd argue that the best year for gaming as of recent memory was 2017. Not only for the AAA market, but especially the indie one. That year we got some massive hits like Doki Doki Literature Club, Cuphead, A Hat in Time, and the game I want to talk about today, Hollow Knight. Despite it being a juggernaut of the indie scene nowadays, you might be shocked to know that it didn't start out that way. In fact, I'd say it was completely overshadowed at the time of its release, popularity-wise. So why don't we go down memory lane and talk about this indie darling and discover why so many people fell in love with it. But first, who are the people who made such a beloved game? And what is their story?
リンクが16歳の時左手の公認紋章が現れるここまで来たらやめられないやればやるほどディスクシステム
I am so happy to talk about small teams, dog, you have no idea. Hollow Knight was created and published by Team Cherry, an Australian studio composed of 3 people, Ari Gibson, William Pellin, and Jack Bine. Yeah, people might forget this, but Team Cherry at its core is only 3 guys, with only a few others coming in to help out with the project. Ari is the co-director and was in charge of the animation and art. William is the other director and was in charge of enemy, boss, and game behavior. Jack is the coder and was very important to Hollow Knight's console releases. Other people of note are David Kazi, who was responsible for the game direction, but had to leave the team after being offered a corporate job, Christopher Larkin, who made the music, and I will expand upon that one later, and Matthew Griffin, who is now the PR manager for the team. All of these men are professionals and have worked in the industry for years. They all have a love for games and decided to form Team Cherry as a way to create something that hadn't been seen before. Hollow Knight actually began as a short 2-hour game called Hungry Knight, which was part of a Newgrounds game jam. But after noticing how much people liked it and how much they enjoyed working on it, Ari and William decided to make a Kickstarter, fund the game, and make it bigger and better. And so Hollow Knight was born. However, it kept on growing, because you see, Team Cherry aren't pussies, so they decided to make free expansions for the game, not only making it bigger, but also expanding upon the lore and characters. They could have easily stopped at the initial release, but they kept on making content for the game. Free content, mind you. A lesser team would have charged you for each expansion, but not them. Not them. The team had to rely on alternate ways to promote their game. You see, they are a small team with no budget, so they had to find other avenues to make people know their game was coming out. So what do? They ask streamers to play their game.
For us, streaming was very important because we're a small indie team who came out of nowhere. We don't have access to press like the big AAA studios, but we do have access, some through our friends, to streamers and even streamers we don't know. We can offer a key, and they might be excited or they might be interested, and that can spread. And it's something that we are actually able to do, rather than potentially hoping for that press access.
It's very endearing hearing how much they enjoyed working on this game. It's kind of refreshing considering how many horror stories you hear about game making. Obviously, there is more to say about them as a team, like how they were inspired by games from their childhood, and how the reception of the game only got as big as it did thanks to word of mouth and people's goodwill. It was a nice, tightly knit community. For a while. But anyways, that was the story of Team Cherry, a small team of Australians getting together and making a game inspired by their childhood games and love of the medium. Now let's move on to something else.
It's a bug-eat-bug world out there. Someone could get hurt. we can find bigger bugs to come here and fight.
Now, why didn't I think of that? Oh, because it's suicide.
A Bug's Life, in theaters this Thanksgiving.
Oh, this is a funny topic. Depending on who you ask, the story of this game could take between 2 minutes to an hour of explaining. But I am not a lore keeper, so I'll keep it brief. You play as a nameless bug who arrives at the kingdom of Hollownest, a once prosperous land now left in ruin. You get to go on an expedition and uncover the mystery behind Hollownest and meet various other bugs along the way to aid you in your journey. And that's basically it. Obviously there's a ton more here, but the most important thing is that you get to discover the story as you explore and progress. Not my preferred way to experience a story, but hey, I wouldn't call it bad. In fact, this story and its setting is rather similar to another popular game series. In fact, times 2, if you were to bring these two games into a conversation, a lot of people would get mad at you for even suggesting that they're similar in any way. Even though it's been stated that a huge margin of people who played Hollow Knight did so because it was repeatedly compared to Dark Souls. So in a way, Dark Souls fans and Hollow Knight fans are one in the same. Which explains a lot! But regardless, I find it funny how there were 2 indie games that were compared to Dark Souls a ton back in 2017. And one of them didn't even make any sense! You know, this is usually a very short part in my videos. Just me giving you a general idea of what this game's plot is, and then I move on to something more substantial. But I want to have some fun, alright? So here's what I'll do. I will badly explain the lore of Hollow Knight up to the point where the game begins. Basically going over the entire lore so that you don't have to waste an hour and 17 minutes of your time watching a video explaining it to you. So if you don't want to get spoiled, skip to here and we'll continue along with the review. Alright? Okay, let's go. So basically this shithole was run by a giant feather duster who was very shiny. Then a white guy showed up and did the thing that white guys do best. Took over the entire land. However, this guy was cool and decided to give the inhabitants of this shithole free will because as it turns out, everyone in Hallownest was just a part of a hive mind the entire time. The white guy then marries a tree and fucks it consistently. The feather duster comes back and decides to create an orange flavored virus and infects the entire kingdom. The white guy then decides to come up with what I consider to be the dumbest plan I've ever heard. You see, he decides to have a fuck ton of kids and then lock them up in his basement, where they get infected with black goo. The goo gets rid of their gender, by the way, I just thought I'd let you know that. Anyways, so he's trying to come up with a perfect door so he can seal away the feather duster and his kingdom stops being sick. Basically, he's making all of his kids abortions because most of them do not survive the goo, except for one. This little abortion gets told to never feel anything ever so it can become the greatest door that ever doored. It doesn't work. As a failsafe, just in case the feather duster escapes, the white guy asks a spider, a jellyfish, and who fucking cares to get in a coma so they can hold back the infection. They all agree, but the spider asks to fuck the white guy before she goes comatose. They then fuck and this bitch is born. Anyways, the white guy then dies and the kingdom kind of sucks now. Everyone is either traumatized, dead, or insane. Oh, you also play as one of the botched abortions. Neat. And that's the lore of Hollow Knight. Obviously what I said makes no sense, but it wasn't inaccurate. Oh wait, let me scare the people who skipped my explanation. Bitch! Anyways, let's move on to something else.
That's 24 megs worth of weapons, worlds, and weirdos old killer's up against. Nintendo's biggest game ever. He's a big boy. He can handle it. Well, let's see how he did. Ship it!
The gameplay of Hollow Knight is a 2D platformer with a focus on exploration and combat. I know a ton of people would call this a Metroidvania, but I will be completely honest. If you still use that term... Now the gameplay of Hollow Knight is deceptively simple. Jump around, swing your nail, and die a lot. But it's when you continue playing the game and unlock several upgrades that shit gets really interesting. Kinda sucks that you have to wait a while to find the stuff that makes the game fun, but you'll manage. Let's break it down. Starting with the movement options like the wall grab, double jump, and dash to help with the game's rather simplistic pull at the beginning of the game. At the beginning of the game, you are so fucking slow and limited movement-wise and fucking terrible that once you get the option to dash, you feel like a coked up cheetah running around all over the place. Since I'm gonna be perfectly honest, the platforming is very fun. Next is the exploration. The game basically tells you to find the plot yourself, so you have to traverse all of these ruins. This is my favorite part of the game, since it's always fun to explore around and discover new places. And while I am incredibly jaded to this formula because it makes me feel like I'm wasting my fucking time, I have to say that once you do unlock all of the skills and abilities, it's actually fun to explore and jump around all over the place. Lastly, we talk about the combat. It's fine. Frankly, I'd say that compared to everything else I talked about, it's my least favorite part of the game as a whole. Not that it's bad, mind you, I just prefer to jump around and find cool stuff. That said, there is a ton of cool stuff you can do. You can either dodge everything or parry projectiles, you can use spells or just bash shit with your nail like a true champion. You can be a frail but quick fighter or a slow but beefy wall, it's really up to you. Now, while this is everything that composes the gameplay, I actually want to touch upon something that really helps this game shine in my opinion. And those are the charms. The charms to me are the thing that really show what kind of player you are. Obviously, there's charms that are objectively better than others, but whatever other charms you equip really helps make the game feel more personalized. Are you a bitch that gets hit a lot and needs more hit points? There's a charm for that. Do you prefer to use spells rather than your nail? There's a charm for that. Do you want to be a single parent? Literally, there's a charm for every type of player out there. Frankly, the fact that the game has so many options to customize your knight's moveset is kind of amazing, and not something you'd expect from a game like this. My style is playing the game as little as possible, which is why I just have a shit ton of minions doing the fighting for me. Go, my goons! Kill them all! Last thing I want to talk about is the difficulty of the game. You don't attract masochists by being a piece of piss. This game can be considered difficult. But it's only as difficult as you make it. Like I mentioned before, you're the one who chooses how to play with all of the tools the game gives you. So to quote the second most fuckable character in this game, get good. This isn't me being an elitist, by the way. I find people who brag about playing hard video games to be obnoxious and lacking an actual personality. I'm just saying that if you find a certain part of the game to be hard, well, you have the tools to change your strategy, mate. There's a few more things to criticize, but I really don't want to dwell on them, so fuck it, here's the list. Alright, that was the big thing to talk about out of the way. Now, let's talk about something else.
Evil is stealing away all the holiday leaders and taking over. Now only Jack Skellington has the power to bring them back. Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, Boogie's Revenge, the video game.
Now this shit's buzzing. Usually what I do is talk about the music and voice acting in the same section, but given that the voice acting in this game is just a bunch of gibberish and screams, I think I can do a little switch up. Callaos! Anyways, starting with the music. Composed by Christopher James Larkin, this is literally some of the best music I've ever heard in a video game. It's all so varied. The atmospheric tracks fit the melancholic feel for so many of the areas in the game, making them feel like the desolate ruins they really are. The more energetic music that plays during fights is frenetic and makes you feel like you're in a duel fighting for your life. Then there's the gentler songs. They have this magical feel to them. This feeling that while yes, this place is dangerous, there's still locales where you can gaze around and ponder and let the beauty envelop you. And the boss themes. Damn! They are so fucking good, dude! You get the idea. The music is fantastic and based and great, and you should listen to it. You know what else is fantastic? The art style this game has. Done by Ari Gibson, this has to be one of the most unique looking games I've ever seen. I've heard a lot of people compare it to Tim Burton, but frankly, I cannot see that at all. I guess they mean it's gothic, which is why it reminds them of Burton's style, but his style is rather detailed, while Hollow Knight is way more simplistic. And the character design is just as diverse as the music. Since they are based on bugs, you really have a nice variety of designs. You have cool characters, cute characters, scary characters, goofy characters, weird characters, gross characters. They all make this wasteland of a kingdom have so much personality. Gotta thank that gibberish too. Speaking of this shithole, the environments are easily my favorite thing about this game art-wise. It's all so... I don't know. A lot of them have this vibe that I can't quite put into words. I guess just looking at them should be enough. It's kind of odd when locales from a wasteland leave you speechless, huh? Anyways, I think it's time I wrap this whole thing up. So let's finish up and go home. Alright?
Tekka! Mikata ka! 謎のブルース率いるロボット軍団に立ち向かえ! 好評発売中! Capcom.
Here we go. I don't think I need to explain the legacy that this game has. It's been almost a decade and it's still considered to be one of the best games ever. So much so that its concept art is currently sitting in a museum right as we speak. The game had a rather long life even after its release, thanks to all of the free expansions it received. Hidden Dreams, The Grim Troop, Lifeblood, Godmaster. Not to mention the fact that in less than a year after its release it was ported to fucking everything. It has garnered such a large ecosystem too, with one of the biggest subsects being, in my opinion, the speedrunning community. Seriously, people have died trying to beat this game as fast as they can. Next is the modding community, which has stuff from changing how your character looks to straight up giving you an AK-47. The lore keepers, who I will ignore because they are nerds and I don't respect them, fuck off. All of the fan artists and animations, you get it. This is a massive community that helped elevate this game from a cult classic to being popular enough to get literal action figures and comic books. In fact, it's so successful that Hollow Knight received a sequel that's out right now. All thanks to the fans. The fans that I fucking despise. Now, for those who aren't in the know, me and Hollow Knight go way back. I won't share the whole story here since that's not really what this video is about. I wanted to properly put into words that this game is indeed worthy of praise and is in fact one of the greats. I don't want my own gripes to cloud my ability to judge art and talk about what I enjoy. However, in the 7-year wait between this and this, something happened. Hollow Knight fans, well, they snapped. I'm sure you've seen the memes of these people waiting for years and years for this game, basically praying and longing for any news. So they swarmed any and all presentations to see if there'll be news, a release date, hell, confirmation that the game was even still happening. And well, let's just say that I know how this is going to go. The game will come out, Everyone is going to be happy and celebrating, and it'll be just like in 2018, you guys. We can all forget about the past. Except me. I won't forget what you did. You may think Silksong coming out will erase everyone's memory of the past 7 years. But I'm never letting you forget how you all acted during that waiting period. How you constantly harassed people. How angry you got at companies that had nothing to do with Team Cherry. How you treated content creators in this community. How you treated games just because they reminded you of Hollow Knight. How after all of these years, you're still unable to take a fucking joke. You people are the most petulant, obnoxious group I've ever seen. And you do not deserve Silksong. This game that is very likely going to be amazing is not something you deserve after all of those years of waiting. No, you deserve this game to never come out and to be on limbo forever. And the only good thing to come out from Silksong's release is Team Cherry making a shit ton of money. You could have played nice. You could have looked for other interests and move on. You could have been patient because 7 years is nothing game development wise. But no, you decided to be clowns. Clowns that never made anyone laugh. So enjoy Silksong. I know I will once I buy it and play it. But just know that if I see you get on your high horse again, if I see you belittle other games because you don't happen to have any other interests, if I see you mistreat any content creators, I will be the first person to tear you down and remind you how much of an unfunny joke you are. This has been The Analyzer, and I'll see you all next time.